This is Lori, welcoming you to Lori Late Night on syndicatednews.net. Our last show focused on online dating profiles that do not match the person writing the post because people are generally not objective when posting an ad. Men and women tend to see themselves differently than the post they publicly put online. Responses from our listeners last week told us that they are still interested in hearing us talk about this topic. So we will continue discussing the many layers of online dating. I would like to let our listeners know that my guests and I are not online dating experts or psychologists or counselors of any kind. We are merely entertaining you with these topics. Remember that we are here to share ideas and talk about things we have all experienced, and you are all invited to join us. Now, last week, I stated that out of 54 million single people in the United States, 40 million of them use online dating sites. Joining me are my friends Ruthie and John. Hi, Ruthie. Hi, John.
Hello.
I'm glad you joined me again today.
It was so much fun last time.
It was.
Very enjoyable.
When men and women join a dating site, they're asked to answer questions. And the dating site then matches people by personality traits, their activity preferences, religion, education, height, weight, and several other criteria. Those answers are then compiled and compared to other applicants' answers, and they're matched for common traits, tendencies, and preferences. The applicants are also usually asked to write an essay about what they hope to find in a potential mate. One very interesting question offered are whether they are interested in a friendship, a long-term relationship, marriage, just dating, friends with benefits, or just hit and run sex. Now, Ruthie, you mentioned something interesting about men and women having difficulty being objective when they are posting a personal ad because our mental picture of ourselves may be a lot thinner or taller or more athletic than we actually are in reality. What experiences have you had?
There are certain criteria that I have for being interested in one person or another. I see if there are enough things posted in a profile that attract me, that allure me. And the person doesn't have to be an absolute athlete. And I've answered a profile and the individual looks totally different, or there's a lot more to him than he posted on the profile.
I would think that happens both ways, doesn't it, John? So, John,
Well,
does that happen
I
more with women?
I think the objectivity thing is a real issue, and it works both ways. One of them is when you were saying that people have a hard time being objective about themselves. Oftentimes, I am taken back to reality when I look in the mirror. My mental image of myself is better than what I think I see in the mirror. And so I think a lot of people are like that. And so there's certainly the potential for mutual disappointment in a first meeting because we each sort of have our hopes up. But then who's to say? Some people wind up posting very current pictures, and that's really what they are. And there have to be also plenty of times when one or both of the parties are pleasantly surprised because this person is much more interesting looking than he or she had represented him or herself as being. Sometimes the person is too nice looking. The other person may be thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm out of my league." So I think it goes both ways.
And a couple men that I have met have been pleasantly surprised. I note the surprise, and I think it's because they're surprised that I actually looked like my picture.
Well, that certainly could be. And I think if one were to do a survey, probably more people have out of date, extra complimentary pictures as opposed to current and realistic. And I think that's just human nature.
I was wondering if a man, when he describes himself as being polite and courteous, and they may be, when does their comfort level on their being courteous? Like when you first meet somebody, you're on your best behavior. You have your pleases and your thank yous, and you're careful when if you go to burp, say, you go, oh, pardon me, excuse me. So at what point does it happen where the man, mostly the man, gets so comfortable that he can just expel gas in her presence if he wants to and just mutter and excuse me? He can control the impulse because we do. Of course, women don't pass gas in public, but doesn't this where does that line come where they're so comfortable?
I say about 4 to 6 months.
I mean, all of a sudden, they don't have to close the bathroom door even. It's like, what's that about?
4 to 6 months. Really?
I think it's a little different than that. The people who are comfortable doing that are comfortable doing that in those circumstances, and they just wait until they feel that they've waited the appropriate amount of time to be allowed to do it. There are certain people who will not do that, and it doesn't make any difference whether it's 6 weeks or 6 months or 6 years. That isn't part of their behavior. And so that's part of the dating thing and all, to get some idea of what this person is truly like as opposed to what this person's facade is. And if one could meet someone in speed dating and plug in or something with some kind of Star Trek deal to each other's brains and find out what our true core values are, then people could get married in a matter of a few minutes and have a wonderful relationship because they would already know what this person's core values are. But it's a gamble. People represent themselves the way they want to think other people will think of them. If that's not really what they are, then they're putting on a facade, and it's let the buyer beware. It's in your best interest to figure out if the person that you're being shown is really that person or if it's a fake.
It's like buying a car. You have to look under the hood.
I guess. But you
Well,
may
I'm
have to
gonna
take it for a long road test to make sure it doesn't make any special rumbles and develop.
well, I'm gonna take it that it's a compliment because for him to be that comfortable with me, I should take it as a compliment, I guess. Okay. When I'm meeting somebody online for the first time, I enjoy passing several emails between a man and myself before even talking on the phone. A lot of times, a man will rush, they'll be quick to say, even in their profile, I'm not one that wants to pass emails back and forth. I want to just get on the phone, let's meet, and let's get on with it. But get on with it. The emails passing back and forth and corresponding in this way helps us to weigh each other's sense of intelligence, where we may complement one another. It's a place to share our likes, dislikes, and other areas of compatibility.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with what the individual's goals are in the online dating. If one is looking to have a long-term friendship of quality that could develop into marriage or a wonderful monogamous relationship, then things like courtesy and personal hygiene and ethics and all those kinds of things are important. And one's command of the language and civility and courtesy, all those things, and the emailing back and forth helps one to come to some sort of a decision as to what this overall person is. And for myself as a male, I don't think I have ever gone on a first meeting and gone Dutch. I have always picked up the tab. So I would like to think that if I'm going to invest in a nice meal to meet someone, I would like to be pretty sure that this is a person that I want to meet. On the other hand, if all I'm really looking for is a few hours of passion and then on to another conquest, I'm not that interested long term about all the things that this person may be, after we're comfortable together. That's never going to happen.
So can say that if a person has that on their profile, that they are not interested in emailing, and we should just figure they are of the friends with benefits or the hit and run sex people?
Well, I don't know that you can ever make an absolute determination, but I would certainly have my antenna up for that. To me, that would be an indicator, and I would be looking that direction.
Because on the other hand, a hesitancy to correspond a few emails would also mean their discomfort with the language, discomfort with their spelling, even though there's spell check, because that tells a lot about who you're talking to.
Well, I think it does, and I like to exchange a few letters. I want to have a feeling that this person is somebody that I want to be spending some time with. And I want to think that this person is literate enough to be able to put together a sentence or a paragraph or something. So, yes.
They're interested in meeting people, and they don't care if your criteria doesn't match them, that they're not compatible. He wants to meet her to see if he can cajole the woman into having fast sex. And many times they're right. They do strike well. They do well.
I'd like to mention a couple things as a male chauvinist. One of them is when ladies say that they like to travel and they like international travel. I keep thinking, who's paying for all of this? I'm not that interested in going by myself. I'm really not very interested in picking up another total expense. Plus, I would then feel obligated to be eating at nicer establishments if I have someone with me.
Well, I think going into online dating takes a lot of practice. When I first became newly single a couple years ago, I jumped into the online dating site and I wrote an elaborate essay about myself, and the responses that I got were anything but. I'm not saying they were rude responses. No, they were not. But by the time I conversed with this person or met the person, people misrepresent themselves. And just what you were saying, it's a gamble, it's a game, it's like a dating dance.
Well, I think of it as
Because
sort of like speed dating or something. We're not looking for 300 people. We're looking for one special one or two or three. We're looking for quality, not volume. Getting back to the clicking on long-term relationship as opposed to just interested in a casual affair. I'd noticed on one or more sites that ladies, actually really appealing seeming ladies, would put on there that they were interested primarily in something physical as opposed to looking for long term. And I thought, boy, this is great. I can't believe it's this easy. I'll answer
yeah,
some
it's
of these.
pretty bold.
And so, yes, I was in basically in admiration of the self-confidence that these ladies had. And so in answering some of these, it became apparent that many of these ladies were business ladies and they were working
Ah,
their business right there. And that it was the
ah.
business ladies who would say they were interested in a physical relationship. And so I think it takes a while to get through these systems and figure what the right terms are to use to meet the most people. And I think for men, they do much better saying that they are interested in a long term relationship. And certainly, I would like to think that most of us, even if we're not intentionally looking for that, if we were to meet this person absolute miss right, then the long term relationship would be a no brainer. So it's not really misrepresentation. It's just not what you're looking for primarily. It's kind of like a long-term relationship could be a wonderful byproduct.
I also wonder that we are not in our 20s or 30s or even 40s anymore. And I think what we used to look for, we don't look for that anymore. And so, even in considering somebody for a long term relationship, there's so many compromises. And I don't know if I am even able to consider how many compromises I would do. We kind of get stuck in our own, like Ruthie said earlier, what do we want to give up for another person now?
Well, funny you should mention that, but you are not the only one who has had this thought.
Well, I
I think
can't
it
wait.
occurs to many of us. And I think the answer to this is, what will this individual, if you're thinking about a long term with someone in particular, what will this individual bring to the table? You, meaning people in the circumstance, are well advised to think about that very long and hard and say, what am I going to give up? What am I going to gain? Is this going to be an overall positive experience for me, or will it not be? And if one thinks it will not be, then my advice, my own choices so far have been not to jump in there. If you know what your life is right now and it's fairly stable and you don't have any real economic problems and no real social problems and whatever, it's fairly even and smooth and stress free. And if you're going to bring someone in who makes your heart flutter but is a drug addict or is an alcoholic or gambles or has terrible credit card debt and does not see him or herself as the problem, I'm just the victim of these credit, the interest rates or something. If these people have real systemic life problems at this age that have not gone away, they're probably not going to go away when you get involved. You are just going to be sucked into the problem. So I would say, don't be planning on giving up a lot. You've spent your whole life getting to where you are. Your present life is pretty much a reflection of all your past decisions. Stay with that. Just be careful. Don't be disheartened. And keep going. Endeavor to persevere. It's much better to be looking than to have made a bad decision.
And I think we're going to wind up on that note. And I would like to thank Ruthie and John for joining me again this week. Well, I look forward for anyone listening. If you have an important topic you would like to discuss, please feel free to email me at lorilatenite@gmail.com. It's LORILATENITE at gmail.com. A few words to close about tonight are: our wish for you is to live your life to the fullest and enjoy your families and friends. Remember, we have the option of choosing our friends, so choose wisely. This is Lori from Lori Late Night from syndicatednews.net saying good night.